First-time actor Dwayne Johnson takes on the role of Mark Kerr in The Smashing Machine, an A24 powerhouse film hoping to sit right next to the Iron Claw in terms of quality, substance, and powerful storytelling. At least that's what I was hoping The Smashing Machine would do. I was very excited for this film to come out, mainly because it combines a lot of the things I love in this world. Guys beating the crap out of each other, Dwayne Johnson attempting to act, and Emily Blunt just in general. But with a 2-hour runtime and a very simplistic script, does The Smashing Machine live up to the hype I put on myself? I'm going to tell you about it in a spoiler-free review. Before we go to the mat together, if you wouldn't mind just cheap-shotting the subscribe really quickly on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and truthfully, I would cherish you for that. Okay, let's tap in. Is that the opposite of tap out? Let's get started. I'm a sucker for a based-on-true story Hollywood flick, regardless of how many creative liberties they take. And I know next to nothing about this Mark Kerr character outside of what I just witnessed in the film, so I cannot speak to the legitimacy of the story that's on display. The service I can provide you, though, today is whether or not I think this movie works. And to that, I give you a hearty, definitive, kind of, sort of, a little bit. We're really going to focus in on Mark's career from 1997 to the year 2000. A lot happens in those 4 years, and this film is captured with some very lovely 16mm cameras and IMAX cameras tossed in for good measure, but I believe it's only for one scene, and I honestly don't know when that happened. But I do know this, movies that came out in 97, 98, 99, and 2000 don't look near as retro as what this movie's providing me, which made me think I was watching something more akin to like the 70s. This is not a bad looking movie by any means. It's very nice to look at, but it's got a lot of grain, and I just felt like if you're doing a kind of a period piece, it's a little odd that it comes off more retro than the story it's presenting. Another big part of the production to go over quickly are the prosthetics, the makeup, whatever they're doing to Dwayne Johnson to transform him into this UFC fighter. And they do a bang-up job making The Rock look unrecognizable, at least in the facial area. You know, he's still this mountain of a man. I don't know if it's the most consistent makeup, though. It's hard for me to say because of lighting and locations and whatnot, but I felt like his face was always in flux, not quite looking the same from scene to scene. Never straight up Dwayne Johnson, but not necessarily always Mark Kerr either. There's a lot of different Mark Kerrs going on in here. As for Dwayne Johnson himself, I teased a little bit in the intro, but it really was nice to see him put in some damn work, put in some effort, and he really does. Outside of a couple spots where he definitely falls back into his Rock style of talking, he really does transform into Mark Kerr. Again, I don't know if it's the Mark Kerr in real life that people see because I am not familiar, but at least within the film, he's playing a character and he does a damn fine job at that. He's showing some weakness, he's showing strength, he's showing emotion outside of lifting the eyebrow and acting all cool. Joining this boulder of a man is his co-star Emily Blunt. She plays Dawn Staples. They have a complicated relationship, to put it lightly. I never really felt like I understood who Dawn was as a person. Mark felt more fleshed out than her. He's almost got a childlike quality to him. He gets a rumbly in his tummy. He doesn't like fast-moving rides. He's a bit innocent, a little naive, and he's gonna fall down some dark paths. And Dawn's definitely rough around the edges too, but the story never really dives into why or what's going on with this character. Every time I see her, she's just so bipolar. It's hard to know exactly what's going on between these two individuals. Obviously, I can fill in some of the gaps, but I don't feel like there was enough pieces laid out to this puzzle for me to complete the picture. And I suppose that's an analogy I can use in general for this movie as a whole. It's just very inconsistent and it feels unfinished. Or perhaps there just wasn't really a story to tell that warranted a full film, at least not a 2-hour one. A 90-minute movie would have been plenty to get the point across. In fact, the point is pretty much set in stone within the first 30 minutes. There's kind of a second storyline going on in here, focusing on Mark Coleman, who's a very close friend to Mark Kerr, also competing in the UFC. Again, I don't get much out of this character outside of he seems like a loyal, good dude, and that's about it. He's a hard worker. All right, everybody's a hard worker here. Now, if you're a big fan of the sport, if you love UFC, I think this movie's far more of a love letter to fans like you than it is to someone like me. I come at all these movies as a lover of film, an appreciator of the cinema. So if the story is not really working for me from beginning to end, I'm going to let that be known. Someone watching this just to see some of the stars that they grew up with in the UFC, I think will be very happy with this film. There is a good amount of focus on training. There are some good fights on display. You hit the octagon a little bit, and it's given you a good amount of sparring in the ring. The biggest issue I have with this film is the screenplay. The story never really seems like it's building to anything too interesting that we don't really already understand. The whole thing ends in a very unsatisfying way. As a whole, however, I'm more positive on it than I am negative. And once again, shout out to Dwayne Johnson for really putting himself out there, stepping outside his comfort zone, and transforming from a large monster of a man wrestler to a large monster of a man wrestler. Jokes aside, he did great. Emily Blunt is always fantastic. The movie's rated R for swearing, for violence, for some substance abuse. I think I covered all the things. So to summarize, I would say The Smashing Machine is plenty engaging enough, definitely too long for the story it's telling, and unfortunately it just doesn't rise to anything truly impressive, which is a shame. I was very excited for this one, but overall, okay. All right, let me know your thoughts if you already saw The Smashing Machine or if you're a little bummed to hear it's not the greatest thing that's going to come out this year. Let me know in the comments. Please, again, think of subbing to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I post movie reviews, rants, live streams almost daily on the show, and it's all movies all the time here. I would appreciate it if you stuck around. All right, that's all I got for you. Take care. If you appreciate my content, I am a one-man band. This is a ton of work, and you want a way to give back. Head on over to patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. There's tons of exclusive perks over there. Look at these awesome supporters so far. There's some of the best people on this planet, and you could be one of them. You could be right there alongside, and I would appreciate it.